please me, oh yeah, like I please you.
Unless we act, the government shuts down at midnight this Friday. If we fail to meet that deadline, it will be another evidence of a Republican failure in leadership. They picked the date December 11th. We didn't pick it. If the date is not met, that is Friday at midnight, it'll be because they have continued to demand these noxious poison pill riders. We've been talking about them for months, and they are unrelenting on those. 95% of the so-called riders are Republican riders. 95%. No legislation will pass with these poison pill riders. We passed a bipartisan budget agreement. We did it through good faith negotiations. It was meant to stop a government shutdown, but we need Republicans to work with us to stop with their demands for provisions that won't be signed into law. This is more than just a legislative operation. We have the White House involved in this, and rightfully so. Even though it's hard to comprehend, and I'm sure the American people are shaking their heads, Republicans blocked legislation to keep guns out of the hands of suspected terrorists. They blocked legislation to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous individuals. Again, they've yet to explain what they object to. All the reasons they've given just don't add up. One of them, they said, well, Ted Kennedy was on the watch list. I don't think we had to worry about Ted Kennedy out buying an assault weapon. The idea that this approach would limit the rights of Americans' own firearms is nonsense. And our approach would protect the due process rights. That's why Republicans in the Bush Justice Department and Republican Representative Peter King supported it. They support our legislation is basically what Bush wanted. Republicans need to stop making excuses to protect the NRA. It's time to come together and close this dangerous loophole. And I might also add, it's time there was something done to stop the Republicans and their desire to be president. Stop them from their hatred, their hate-filled rhetoric. Something just came across my electronic device half hour ago or so, that in Las Vegas, this coming, I think it's on Monday, they're going to have a meeting. See if I can find that. This is worth finding.
Take out your electronic
Let's see if I can find this. There it is right here. Let's get it right here. Okay. Senator wanted to make sure you were aware that on this coming Monday, there will be an anti-Islam, anti-immigrant conference which Donald Trump, Cruz, Rubio, and many others will attend. It's being held at the International Peace Education Center in Las Vegas. Need I say more? Durbin.
The Republicans are facing a basic test. The first test is constitutional. Yesterday, the comments that were made by presidential candidate Donald Trump were disgusting, outrageous, and un-American. Donald Trump is trying to insert into our national security a religious test. He says he would exclude people of the Islamic faith from this country. Since the beginning of this country and the writing of our Constitution, we have made it clear there is no religious test for running for office, nor has there ever been a religious test when it came to the protections of the Constitution and the rights of individuals. Now, the leading candidate in the Republican primary for President of the United States is trying to create a religious test against people of the Islamic faith. The question, obviously, is whether or not Republicans are willing to toss out the Constitution and all that it's meant for more than 200 years to show their fealty to the man who is the leading candidate in the Republican presidential primary. If there is not a clear break between the Republican Party and what Donald Trump has said from top to bottom, shame on that party, that grand old party. And the second question is, will they abandon common sense in the name of national security? Did you hear the debate last week on the floor of the United States Senate? When Manchin and Toomey offered their amendment for background checks, defeated overwhelmingly on the Republican side, an effort to keep guns out of the hands of people who are convicted felons and those who are mentally unstable, and then came Dianne Feinstein's amendment, an amendment so clear, so straightforward, that there really is no excuse. Those who are on the no-fly list, the terrorist watch list, would have been prohibited from purchasing firearms in the United States under the Feinstein Amendment. These two terrorists in San Bernardino used AR-15s, automatic and semi-automatic weapons, to kill 14 innocent people and to wound more than 18. So when this question came before the Senate, should a person on a suspected terrorist list be allowed to buy a firearm, the Republicans overwhelmingly voted against it. Explain that, if you will. It defies common sense. So the question today for the Republicans, are they willing to jettison both the Constitution and common sense in the name of national security? I hope not.
Thank you. Well, there are only 3 days left to strike an agreement to prevent the second Republican government shutdown in 2 years. Republicans set the deadline we're up against this week. They pushed for a CR that expired on December 11th, yet now they're in danger of going past the deadline because they refuse to give up on poison pill riders. We've made great progress with the bipartisan budget agreement this fall. But if that was one step forward, Republicans seem intent on now taking us 2 steps back. The omnibus should be a vehicle to help our economy, fund our military, fund programs critical to the middle class and those trying to get there. It shouldn't be held hostage by Republicans so that they can try to pass legislation that wouldn't ever pass the Senate if it was debated in the light of day. Enough is enough. Republicans need to work in good faith to pass an omnibus bill that honors the agreement we struck this fall and abandon their effort to jam through these terrible riders. Republicans in Congress seem to be on a different planet than the American people as the year comes to a close. They're threatening another government shutdown over extraneous issues with the holidays right around the corner, and they're also repeatedly blocking Democratic attempts to close the loophole that allows suspected terrorists to buy guns. Today, I joined 4 of my Democratic colleagues. We went to the floor. We tried to ensure that people on the terror watch list aren't able to buy guns. Last Thursday, maybe they had an excuse. They said, well, we don't know what caused San Bernardino. Now we know, it's clear as a bell. Terrorism. And yet, with America afflicted by the potential of terrorism, we're allowing potential terrorists to buy guns? Once again, the NRA prevails. Their lack of common sense prevails, and Republicans march in lockstep with them. Our Republican colleagues try to claim that our bill denies due process. They're dead wrong. It's an excuse. Under our bill, if a person believes they're on a list being denied a gun unfairly, they can appeal it. Do we not have a criminal justice system? Because maybe 1 out of 1,000 people, let's just say, for example, 1 innocent person out of 1,000 is convicted. Do we say, let those 999 guilty people go free? No. We try to correct the system and make it better. But our Republican colleagues have a newfound love for civil liberties when it comes to guns, but nowhere else. Okay, that's all right. I get the point. Senator Murray. I better take out my electronic device and call home.
Are you done, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's one thing that's clear from the past few years, it is that the only way for Republican leaders to avoid a Tea Party crisis is to work with Democrats to get things done. We saw that with our bipartisan budget deals. We are seeing that today with the Every Student Succeeds Act, and I'm hoping that we can see it again with this omnibus. We are less than a week away from the next artificial deadline set by the Republicans, and they're still playing games. They're trying to jam through policy riders that have no chance of becoming law, and that would be devastating for our workers, our seniors, our women, and our families if they do. So they need to push the Tea Party demands aside. They need to drop their poison pill riders and work with us to finish this budget process in a way that works for middle-class families and the economy. We can get this done for the people we represent, but Republican leaders need to stop playing politics. There's a lot of real issues ahead of us that we still need to work on, including whether or not terrorists should be allowed to purchase guns in this country.
Senator Reid, there's a proposal that's come up on the House side, at least with the House Freedom Caucus, to, instead of doing an omnibus spending bill, to do a 6-week continuing resolution to punt this into January, or maybe the end of January. Do you have any reaction to that?
If they did that, it would be a very, very bad beginning for the new speaker. Yes.
That the proposal by Donald Trump to ban immigration of Muslims is disqualifying for him as a candidate for the Republican candidacy?
My concern, of course, is with Donald Trump. But what about all these other people? What he said is that they criticize me and then just wait long enough they agree with me, and that's what's happened. And they haven't waited very long to, in their own subtle way, agree with Donald Trump. And you saw what I read to you. They're going to have a little rally in Las Vegas to talk about how bad these immigrants are, especially the Muslims. You know, we have 1 billion people in the world who are Muslims. We have millions in America who are Muslim. For him to say something like this and to have not a we've heard a few tepid, well, maybe he shouldn't have said that, but this is, I think the Republican Party is so branded, I can't imagine how you could register as a Republican.
Senator Reid, House Democrats have said repeatedly that they do not support a larger tax extender package, and they don't want something.
Who said that?
The House Democrats have said that, and they don't want to have any permanent extenders. Are you divided from House Democrats on that, and if so, is that a big issue?
Well, I don't know with whom you're talking. I spoke to the former Speaker, Leader Pelosi, last night about, I don't know, it was kind of late, I don't remember. I didn't hear anything like that from her.
Leader Reid, some members of your own caucus have said that a $500 billion, $600 billion tax extenders package would be too big, too costly if it's not paid for. What have you told them to reassure them?
Every year we do these extenders. Sometimes we wait 2 years, as has happened now. And these tax extenders, many of them are good for business, but those that are good for business are also good for everyday Americans. And each year we do that. They're not paid for, with rare exception. So I don't know what people are talking about. We have an opportunity to see if we can do a package that will give things to the American people that we couldn't get in because the Republicans aren't allowing us to legislate the way we used to. So before we start talking about whether it's a good package or a bad package, let's have a package. We don't have anything to focus on right now. The negotiations got started in earnest last night. Over the weekend, we didn't get much done.
There's a rider that was put on the highway bill. Are you still pushing for it to get on the folks bill? It would focus on debt restructuring and benefit sneezers?
There's a provision that is widely accepted as far as I understand. Basically what it would do is, we've had the same law in America for more than 90 years to allow someone that is having financial difficulties to have a pre-bankruptcy discussion with the bondholders, the debtors, and in the process try to work something out. What a court did surprised everyone. It said you can't do that anymore. You have to go directly to bankruptcy. That's all this changes. It doesn't apply to Caesars. It applies to everybody because that's the bankruptcy law has been in this country for more than 90 years.
Is that going to
discuss your objections to the Cornyn alternative that he offered last week? I know that you guys...
I'm sorry, what is the Cornyn
The
alternative?
Cornyn alternative to the terror watch list gun
yeah.
issue?
Senator Schumer,
Yeah,
you're on the
it lets
floor.
the
You're
horse-
on the floor this morning. Deal with
It
it.
lets the horse out of the barn.
Come up here
You get a gun, and then after 72 hours, the government can say you shouldn't get one. What happens in those 72 hours if you buy the gun and within 24 hours you create the kind of mayhem we saw in San Bernardino? It makes no sense.
within 1 hour. You do it in an hour. Final question? Yes.
So it sounded like you were relatively optimistic that these talks on extenders picked up last night.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You just said that talks on extenders seemed to pick up last night and were going in
It
the right
wasn't
direction.
extenders, it's on the omnibus and the extenders, both.
And so you're saying that both are doing relatively well
I'm
now,
saying-
or how would you
I'm saying-
characterize
I'm
it?
saying both of them are alive, okay? That's about it.
Will it be in the same package?
That's up to the House. They set the rules on that. We don't.
How optimistic are you that